insulation that you get when you walk into this chamber, because you are aware that, first of all, apart from me and maybe my brothers from Kiambu, Machakos and Kajiado, if you are talking to the senator of Turkana, it's a very far distance from Turkana to here. And sometimes that distance, coupled with the security arrangements that we have in this particular place, you can feel extremely insulated from what actually the people are telling us. I am a firm believer that there has to be constant contact between representatives of the people and the people themselves, and especially in controversial times such as we live in, Mr. Speaker. I would have loved, Mr. Speaker, to see more engagements in more counties. In fact, I agree with my colleagues here who have proposed that we need to increase the sort of sittings that we have in a year so that we can cover more of these counties. Let us not fear the people. In fact, Mr. Speaker, it would be extremely interesting if the history of this Senate machinani is anything to go by, for us to be able to go back and do the business that we transact in this House in close proximity with the people. I believe that the closer you are to the fire, the faster you cook. And Mr. Speaker, there have been decisions here that have been taken by some of our colleagues which we disagree with strongly. I would love to see those decisions being made in the presence of the people, because sometimes I can come here and claim that I speak for the people of Nairobi, when I know for a fact that if I went to Ofafa Jericho tomorrow to say that, yes, I support demolition of Ofafa Jericho so that new houses can be constructed there, I will be lynched. I will not even be able to leave that estate, because the people of Ofafa Jericho have given express instructions that as far as they are concerned, they don't want their estate to be demolished. I would love to see a situation, Mr. Speaker, that critical votes on critical issues affecting Mwananchi are actually done in the presence of Mwananchi. If we were able to allow the public to come into this gallery from all the 290 constituencies, for instance, Mr. Speaker, during the vote on the division of revenue, I can assure you it would be a very interesting vote. I would love to see, Mr. Speaker, even as we go to the vote on the finance bill in the National Assembly, how I wish the National Assembly followed the example of the Senate and actually held their sittings in the constituencies during the vote on the finance bill.
What's
Mr.
your
Speaker,
point of order, Senator Cherargei?
You know, my good friend, Senator Edwin Sifuna, is a very serious legal practitioner in this country. Mr. Speaker, understanding 105, standing under number 105, and also under our Constitution, about the exercise on behalf, Mr. Speaker. Under the Constitution, Mr. Speaker, the sovereignty of the people is either exercised directly or indirectly. Does Senator Sifuna want to tell Kenyans that the fact that the great people of Nairobi have elected him to represent them in the Senate, he wants again to abdicate that authority that has been given to go ahead and also call the great people of Nairobi to come to this House to vote on their own behalf, Mr. Speaker? Is it in order to mislead the public that we are voting or exercising authority on our own behalf, yet he knows that all of us were elected to represent the interests indirectly as provided by the Constitution of Kenya, Mr. Speaker? Is it in order?
Senator Sifuna, you take note of the comments under that particular standing order by Senator Cherargei.
Mr. Speaker, with the greatest respect to my younger colleague in the professional, the Honorable Senator Fonandi, I do believe that I understand this document quite well, the Constitution of Kenya. There is a reason why the framers expressed the delegated authority as exercisable directly or indirectly, Mr. Speaker. And all I was saying is that on critical matters affecting Mwananchi, I think he was not in here when I was talking about the sort of insulation that I feel, insulation from the people when you are in this chamber. Because of the layers of security, because of the distance from home, sometimes you feel that you can say things here, and by the time you travel to your constituency, you will have sent people to convince people not to heckle you. Mr. Speaker, all I am saying is this. I, as a representative of the people, would want nothing more than the people to know what it is that I do in this house, which is why we even have parliamentary broadcasting services, so that the people can see if it is indeed true that the things that you are saying on the floor here are not your own things, but the things that the people sent you. I gave him an example of Ofafa Jericho because, Mr. Speaker, we in Nairobi here are in the process of redeveloping old city council estates. I was in Ofafa Jericho, and they told me that for them, they view this redevelopment different from the people, say, in Woodley, the people in Bahati. All I am saying is, on that critical day when a decision is being taken, I am sure, and I know because I'm also a politician, that the mood would be very different. And I gave the example of the Senate Mashinani in September 2018 in Uasin Gishu, at the height of the problems with our maize farmers. I was not a senator then, but I watched with great respect the people of Uasin Gishu telling their senator to his face that that is not the position we sent you to take. And I suggested, Mr. Speaker, that the National Assembly should follow the example that has been set by the Senate. And on this particular bill, the finance bill, I would wish that that bill be voted for while the Assembly is not here in Nairobi, not behind this fence, but mashinani kwa ground. So that when you tell us that you are voting for the people of Kipkelion, and they have sent you that they are saying that you support the finance bill with these punitive tax measures, the people can be there to tell you no. We want to do this ourselves. Mr. Speaker, therefore, I am a firm supporter. And in fact, I am happy that you chose the North Rift. As you know, Turkana is an ODM government there. Personally, would want to be there to see some of the things that my governor is doing there. Mr. Speaker, I have argued in other quarters that, in fact, if some of these national institutions were taken permanently to some of these areas that are troubled with insecurity, like the North Rift, because of the sort of security I see my brother, the Senator for Nandi, moving around with, if we were to replicate that for all the 67 senators, there would be enough security in the North Rift to deal with the problem of banditry. So, Mr. Speaker, I have even hazarded the proposal that we should move these houses. If cabinet used to meet in Kapenguria, if the Senate was doing its proceedings from Kapedo, I can assure you, Mr. Speaker, because they needed to fortify and protect you as representatives of the people, those bandits would be sorted out in a matter of months. However, Mr. Speaker, I support the move. Let us see as the SBC how we can accommodate some of the views that have been given by our members, that we try and increase the number of appearances on the ground there so that we can have more contact with the people. I'm very also pleased to go to Turkana as a member of the Senate Energy Committee because, Mr. Speaker, there is a live dispute there under the Senate Energy Committee involving the Lake Turkana wind power project, where a court decision has just been rendered to return the land that the project sits on back to the people of Turkana. It is a dispute that the Senate cannot avoid or ignore, because, as you know, public land is land that is entrusted in our counties. And it will be interesting for us to hear from the people themselves. You know, Mr. Speaker, when these people make petitions to us here in Bunge, as I've said, because we are so far removed and we are enclosed in this cocoon, sometimes we cannot understand what the people are saying. You need to be there to see it. Mr. Speaker, after the construction of that project, and we in the Energy Committee have engaged with this issue quite robustly, the people of Turkana are still off the grid. They don't enjoy the electricity that is generated in their own areas. So I want to support this. We should do this in more counties. I wish we could go to Meru to see how our governor is going on after the decision that was made in this Senate. There are problems also in the South Rift where the Speaker comes from, in Bomet, in Nandi, in Kericho, with the tea harvesting machines and the conflict with the people there. I wish that we could go there so that we can also deal with those issues there on the ground and solve it for the people. Lastly, I know that the Senate sits in Nairobi, but I would also be wanting that this time round you don't leave us out of Senate Mashinani the way that you did with the Equalization Fund. Because Nairobi is not just here in CBD, Mr. Speaker. There was a team that came from Mukuru Kwanza to petition the Senate Energy Committee about the lack of supply of electricity in that area. So next time, allow also Nairobi to host Senate Mashinani, where we don't just sit here We go into the vijijis. Let us go to Ofafa Jericho to see the issue of redevelopment of the city estates. Let's go to Mukuru. Let's go to Mihango, Mr. Speaker, so that we also in the people of Nairobi do not suffer because we are your gracious hosts. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.